Elachi appointed the Deputy Speaker John Kamangu as acting speaker until the Assembly elects a substantive speaker.
Kama nitapata kazi tena katika administration ya Jubilee nitaifanya kadri ya katiba jinsi inavyosema.
The embattled speaker, whose tenure was marred by chaos, fightings and running battles at City Hall, attributing her predicament to threats and intimidation.
I am free, I can do any politics. I'll do the politics. And I'm going back to my Dagoretti North now.
Elachi made a noisy comeback at the Assembly last year after she was impeached by the Assembly. She leaves office at a time when the county of Nairobi seems leaderless and rudderless. At the center of her resignation is power wrangles on the control of the city. Elachi, who supports the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, has not been seeing eye to eye with Governor Mike Sonko. Constant chaos and bickering between the two factions of county MCAs who support Sonko and those who support Elachi and the Nairobi Metropolitan Services have been the hallmark of Elachi's leadership. After a noisy and chaotic tenure, Elachi is gone, leaving the city in limbo. After months of disputes and power wrangles at the Nairobi County Assembly, Beatrice Elachi resigned today as a county speaker, leaving a power vacuum in the Nairobi City County, which most of the functions have already been taken by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Now Kenyans waiting to see what will happen to the Nairobi County Assembly. Reporting for TV47 from the Nairobi City, my name is Mwangi Maina.
And as reported by Mwangi Maina, Nairobi County leadership now stands at the balance after this resignation of the County Assembly Speaker at a time when the county is operating without a deputy governor or a substantive clerk. And as Joash Onsari now reports, Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko still insists he is still the county boss, even after some of his functions were handed over to NMS.
Nairobi County for months now has faced power wrangles, the county leadership now in limbo. The county operating without a deputy governor after the resignation of Polycarp Igathe in January 2018. And with the resignation of the county speaker Beatrice Elachi, things seems to have fallen from bad to worse. The national government has taken over some county functions, but Governor Sonko insists he is still the county boss.
Tuliposaini mimi na wewe rais mambo ya NMS, hatukusaini tukasema huyu generali akuje anisukume mimi nje. Kwa sababu mimi sikushindwa na kazi. Kabla NMS irudi ikuje, ukienda Mukuru kwa Ruben, mimi ndio gavana wa kwanza.
This comes at a time when there has been political pressure for Nairobi County to be dissolved. President Kenyatta, while launching the construction of hospitals in Kibra and Mukuru kwa Ruben Estate, said the leadership of Nairobi Metropolitan Service has performed well in service delivery in what appears to endorse NMS delivery.
Nashukuru sana waheshimiwa ma MCA kwa vile wametuunga mkono kwa kazi hii ya NMS, kwa sababu ni kazi ya kubadilisha maisha ya mwananchi wa kawaida wa mji huu wetu wa Nairobi. Mutatuunga mkono kwa hiyo kazi? Munataka tuendelee ama tuachane naye kwa sababu ya siasa?
Legally, the county assembly speaker should take over the leadership of the county in an acting capacity if the office of the governor and the deputy governor falls vacant. The resignation of the speaker now leaving the county at the verge of falling into leadership vacuum if the office of the governor fell vacant. Meanwhile, the current acting speaker John Kamangu is among 7 Nairobi senators who have been summoned by the Jubilee Party for misconduct. They are supposed to appear before the party committee on Thursday. Governor Sonko has been threatening to move to court to demand reinstatement of the services under the NMS.
Maendeleo sasa, na ndivyo nimeamua chini ya Jemedari Bandi, na nimemwambia tunataka kuona maendeleo katika kila mtaa wa Nairobi hii yetu.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Away from Nairobi politics and to the national one at large, the Deputy President William Ruto has threatened the so-called deep state and the system in an attempt to frustrate his 2022 bid. Ruto says he is not afraid to face the system in 2022. His remarks coming days after Kotu boss Francis Atwoli and Jubilee Deputy Chairman David Murathe endorsed Raila Odinga's 2022 presidency.
Nilikuwa natishiwa siku hiyo. Kama ningekuwa mtu muoga, hatungeunda hii serikali ya Jubilee. Kama Uhuru Kenyatta angekuwa mtu muoga, hatungeunda hii serikali ya Jubilee, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunatishiwa mambo mingi. Choices have consequences. Nyinyi hamufai kwa sababu mko na kesi ya kule na ni kesi ya uongo. Ni vile tu tunaambiwa hata saa hii. Tunatishiwa ati iko system, ati iko deep state. Ati iko watu watatuibia kura, hata mkipiga kura namna gani, kuna watu wameketi mahali fulani wataamua. Mimi nataka niwaambie, hawa watu tunawangojea. Hiyo deep state tunangojea. Na hiyo system tunangojea. Watakuja na system, sisi tutakuja na wananchi na Mungu. Na tutaona vile hii kazi itaendelea.
All 47 counties have now recorded at least a COVID-19 case. This is according to the Ministry of Health that says Samburu County is the last county to record a case. The total tally is now more than 27,000 cases after 497 new cases were reported as of yesterday. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
Almost 5 months into the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, all the 47 counties have now recorded a COVID-19 case, with Samburu County being the last county to record a case. According to the Ministry of Health, the county has now surpassed most counties with 10 cases as of Tuesday.
Samburu, which was the last county that was unscathed, now has cases and today has 10 cases of coronavirus.
And with Nairobi County now recording a total of 16,119 cases, the ministry says the capital city is struggling to achieve the 300-bed capacity, as most of its bed capacity comes from facilities outside the Nairobi Metropolitan Service.
Without collaboration between the private and national government sector, Nairobi has to put more effort in being able to meet the 300-bed minimum requirement.
The ministry now recommends NMS to come up with proper projections on how the epicenter of COVID-19 transmissions in Kenya can sustain its cases.
We do recommend continued partnership, as I've mentioned, particularly in NMS with our private sector facilities. We do know in terms of provision of care in Nairobi, there's a 50-50 balance, with provision primarily between private sector and public sector, and therefore partnerships become crucial at this point.
This is as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country rises to 27,425 cases after 497 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours.
Nairobi continues to lead today with 236 cases. Kiambu has 45, Kajiado has 26, Mombasa has 19, Machakos 19.
372 patients have recovered after receiving treatment from various hospitals across the country, as 15 more people succumbed to the virus. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Now, the Interfaith Council has developed new guidelines for the safe and phased reopening of places of worship in the country. The council, led by Reverend Anthony Muheria, has now increased the number of those in attendance depending on the capacity of a worship place. Nanok Lauren reports on the new guidelines.
The Interfaith Council has reviewed the level of compliance and the situation in order to determine the transition to phase 1 of the planned phases of reopening of the places of public worship in the country. Under the new guidelines, the number of congregants should be determined by the size of the space available, as worshippers maintain a 1.5-meter distance. The worship time limit has been extended to 90 minutes, while the age limit was revised to above 6 years and below 65 years. Practice practices including wearing face masks, hand washing before and after worship, regular disinfection of places of worship, and use of thermal guns should be adhered to. Funerals that were restricted to 15 people only will increase their attendance to 100 persons, but must follow the Ministry of Health's guidelines.
We all would wish to have big occasions to bid farewell to our loved ones, but we must not create an opportunity to put others in danger because of our carelessness and lack of discipline.
Kenyans and especially young people have been urged to comply with these guidelines to curb the spread of the virus.
A special appeal goes to the young people. You young people are full of life and you love being together. But for this same reason, you can be an easy avenue for this virus to reach, especially our elderly and sick, if you do not take precautions.
Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
And those are the stories that we had for you. It's now time that we cross over to the newspaper review, but not before we take this short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsfeed. Now let's cross over to taking a look at the papers of the day. Kijana Steve Nderi joins me this morning to, of course, weigh in his sentiments on what it is that we have on the newspapers. And as always, we have the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily. And to bring them up on the screen, we start off with the People Daily on the key stories that I believe are the same stories that have been captured also in the other newspapers. Night call that ended Speaker Elachi's job. She was asked to leave so that Nairobi Metropolitan Services can work harmoniously away from the City Hall politics that had subjected the capital to a situation of ignominy. And according to her, she stepped aside, or she resigned, because of the numerous threats that she was getting. Of course, citing these threats were coming from the governor himself. So what way Nairobi, Steve Nderi?
First of all, I believe that it was the right decision by Speaker Beatrice Elachi. And being the source of chaos, she was the center. She was the center or the epicenter of all this chaos where, you know, MCAs were wrangling over the seat of the speaker and all that wrangled between her and the governor. And of course, with the return of Abdinguyo, who is the majority leader, and Tuju, the party leader, the Secretary General of Jubilee, reaffirming that Nguyo is going to stay. And you remember Nguyo was the person who initiated the first impeachment motion against Speaker Elachi. So I think what is happening is that looking at her resignation letter, it was addressed to the president and not the clerk.
Now that's a question also. Should it be an address to the president, the address to the governor, or who? Looking at what has been enshrined in the constitution.
According to the law, it is supposed to be, the letter was supposed to be addressed to the clerk of the assembly. But you could hear in her statement that she was very much addressing the president and even speaking of future engagements with the president, hoping that she is looking forward to future appointments. So that tells you that, according to her statement, it is clear where the source of her resignation is. And I suspect that the source of her resignation comes from the top, and therefore that is why she was addressing the top. And I think, therefore, I think the executive or the head of the executive is quite interested in her departure, because the end of these wrangles and will probably create some tranquility in the running of the county government or the NMS, because the NMS has been seen to be kind of not effective. And you have seen the deployment of police whenever there are chaos. That tells you the president does not want any wrangles or chaos in Nairobi, so that his NMS can have a peaceful working environment, so that he can implement and execute what he wants for Nairobi. So I think that was one of the plans. I think some people will probably be reading too much, because I doubt there could be any lacuna or any gap in law, because definitely there is going to be another speaker, but probably a speaker who will not be engaged in wrangles with the governor. But at the end of the day, I don't think the move is to remove the governor, but I think it is to just give the county or the NMS a good condition to work. And that tells you that definitely maybe she's headed for a greater position, maybe in government or some appointment.
Well, interestingly, and I mean, this is something that we are here to watch and see what direction it takes. Lots of issues will arise in regards to what is enshrined in law, in regards to the lacuna that is being left in Nairobi City County, looking at the fact that we do not have a deputy governor now, we do not have a speaker. Well, of course, apart from Kamangu in acting capacity, and even worse, the fact that the Nairobi governor is in battle with lots of court cases. And that aside, Uhuru Raila team loses revenue allocation vote, and Sakaja proposed the entire 316 billion be shared equally among the 47 counties. Any other parameters should apply on any amount above 316 billion. Linturi's amendment or amended Sakaja's proposal, or Linturi amended Sakaja's proposal to lower the baseline to 270 billion, which was something that was bound to form the basis of yesterday's discussion or debate. And amount allocated so far is 316 to counties in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And as it is, yesterday again, we're not able to get this. And in what, of course, the People Daily says on the front page is that this is how they've termed it. Uhuru Raila team loses revenue allocations or vote. This expounded on page 2 of the People's Daily. So, I mean, interesting, yeah? So to speak, that we are here again. But then this time around adjourned to Thursday. What way forward?
Well, I think I agree with that headline, that Uhuru and Raila direction has maybe lost the vote in the Senate. I think what that tells us is that with Raila and Uhuru probably having supported what probably the majority leader and the minority leader were pushing, but right now we can see that the motion that is going through is that of Linturi, and probably which is an amendment of Sakaja's. And you saw Sakaja was also supporting that amendment. So what that means is that the Kangata agenda is out of the equation right now, because this debate or this formula by Linturi or with amendment has now moved forward to the main motion. So I think probably the Uhuru Raila side has already lost, because now we are going to discuss a motion on Linturi's amendment, and that is now going to be the amendment that will be now on the table, considering that they won by 25 to 20 votes yesterday. So I think Uhuru's plan has already lost. I think there is no, that issue of one man, one shilling formula is kind of out of the equation. And right now, the formula that definitely is probably going to win is going to be this one of Linturi. And you could see senators yesterday were really pushing to have that main motion completed yesterday. But of course, the adjournment was one of the moves to give room for more whipping, probably by the president's side, and of course more to try and maybe introduce more amendments during that period. So I think that was just a delay tactic by the majority side, or that side of the Kangata side. But I think they have already lost, and what we expect is that the Linturi's side is going to win easily, because it ensures that no county loses by a margin of, I think, more than 200 million. And of course, why the marginalized counties were crying was because they would lose by even some with a margin of 2 billion. So they have reduced losses and ensured that those who are gaining will gain minimally, so that we have some sort of a win-win arrangement. So I think the Linturi's formula has chances of winning, and therefore the Uhuru Raila vote is out of the question right now.
Okay, whether it stands a chance or not is a question of wait and see. Come Thursday, we'll be following up on the same, and we see whether indeed it will be the best will be received as of now. Back to the front page, and Ruto Dare's system on 2022 elections. The deputy president says he knows some powerful forces are out to curtail his journey to State House, but he is unperturbed, noting he is unstoppable. Steve.
Well, I think it's gloves off in this fight between Deputy President Ruto and his president or the president Uhuru Kenyatta. I have never had Deputy President Ruto speak so courageously and so directly attacking the system or the establishment, which of course we know he is directing that to the executive, which is headed by his post. So I think now it's gloves off, and I think the war is on, and there is nothing more to hide. And you could hear him speaking about intended plans to even rig the election and all that kind of thing by the system. Of course, the system is not just a system that is vague. It comprises of individuals who sit in the deep state and who probably give directions on what will happen in the executive and in the country. Of course, that includes the president, and the president is at the core of that deep state. So what that means is that Ruto is no longer fearing addressing the president. He no longer fears condemning the president for the war that he has leveled against him. So I think Ruto is now all out. And of course, with the reopening of the churches, I think he will have now a platform to speak more of those courageous statements. So it's going to be a very interesting time, and we are going to see, probably, is there anyone who is going to make a compromise on the way? Because of course we have seen Ruto's men have made a compromise, and now what Ruto's men used to say, what Kinasudi and the likes of Murkomen will say and attacking the system, it is now Ruto who is saying it himself.
Okay, and well, we wait to see. In a story that has been captured on page 6 of the People Daily, let's cross there, and they say that it's a relief for churches at this time when, I remember the other day we were just talking about religious leaders calling upon the government and, the Interfaith Council to relook into the measures that they put on board. And indeed, the prayers have been answered. So relief for worshippers as council eases restrictions. Good way or good move for this situation?
Well, looking at this country, we've been kind of approaching this issue of COVID by making quite what I would call a cosmetic surgery on the finger of a heart patient. I think that is what the kind of measures we've been doing. We've not been really serious on the measures, and you've seen the government is and some of the government senior leaders are part of the people who are leading the violation of the COVID-19 guidelines, including the CS of health himself. So I think what that tells you is that I think we have reached a time where we are going the Tanzanian way, probably, where, let us now let people to continue with their activities. So I think what the church was asking for is something that they deserve, because we are seeing political rallies, we are seeing other uncontrolled gatherings continuing to happen. So I think the church, considering that it is going to be a controlled gathering, it is going to be a setup where time is controlled, social distancing is established, I think it is only fair to reopen the churches. But as I said, it is I don't think the churches really stood the test of time, because what the churches really advanced in church, we did not see them really advance it from home. So I think it was quite a challenge for them. We were speaking the kind of rape cases, the GBV cases. We never saw the church really vocal about that, but they were always vocal about reopening. So I think they kind of failed in that, but I think they deserve the reopening for as long as they maintain those COVID-19 guidelines. I think the church is not the institution that is going to probably violate the guidelines as much as the political arena really has, and especially the government individuals recently.
Okay, well, and for that, let's just take a look at some of the adjustments that have been done on matters limit of numbers of people who are supposed to attend. More worshippers are allowed in, depending on the size of the institution, not the 100-member limit. In terms of time, services are to last for an hour and a half, up from an hour. An age bracket changes, 6 years up to 65 years old to attend a service. Remember the other time, the youngies were not allowed, and people more than 58 years old were not allowed in. And also adjustments on matters funeral, as 100 people are allowed to attend funeral service up from 15 people only. And also they are to develop more health protocols that are supposed to be enforced moving forward. So we wait to see what will happen in regards to the same. Even as matters COVID-19, we had what it is that the Ministry of Health said that they are also on talks on finding out how best they can be able to access the vaccine that has come out from Russia. So Kenya looks to Russia for COVID-19 vaccine, and about 20 countries are already doing that. This could be the ultimate answer to the issue of COVID-19, or we can only say it's about trying.
Well, I think it's about trial, but I think it's going to be the way forward with the kind of confidence that the Sputnik vaccine has brought to the Russians. You've seen that one of the first people to be vaccinated was the daughter of Putin. Yeah. And I think that is to mean that they must have a lot of confidence in that vaccine. So I think personally, of course it's always about trial, but I believe that the vaccine will be one major milestone in the fight against COVID-19, because we have to be realists and not utopians to understand that social distancing, wearing of masks is basically working, but it's not 100% effective. So we need a solution that is probably close to 100% effective, and that must be the vaccine. But I think even as the vaccine comes, and even as people get vaccinated, I doubt that life is going to come back to normal soon, even if people get the vaccine. But we must be realistic to understand that the vaccine is probably going to arrive in Kenya, maybe from 2021. I could hear they have, I think, almost 20 billion orders for vaccine units. I mean, not 20 billion, but I think 200 million units have already been ordered. So, of course, for them to be able to supply around the world, I think Kenya could probably get it from next year. So I think people should not really have a lot of, much hope on that for now. I think people should continue observing the current guidelines and precautionary measures that we have, which probably will even continue even after the vaccine.
Okay, well, that aside, coming to the Daily Nation, And I think it's a story that we've captured. That is the big one. You can see the face of Deputy President William Ruto right there in what is termed as a bold move, like you had rightfully put it right earlier on. But there's also another story on matters education, and from what the Daily Nation says, it is a big win for NAT members in war with TSC over new salaries. We know very well that the war has been there for the longest of time, and now the National Assembly has decided to step in to end this long-standing dispute between the Teachers Service Commission and the Kenya National Teachers. The employer left teachers affiliated to the union and out of salaries deal, citing court cases. So Busia Women Representative, that is Florence Mutua, who's the Education Committee chairperson, said that teachers should be promoted based on the Code of Regulations and Scheme of Service. So all teachers should be paid the third CBA benefits, irrespective of the union they belong to. This is according to Mutua, and this has been captured extensively on the back page of the Daily Nation. Do you suppose this is the right direction to take? I mean, and why is it that we even got to that point where there is a huge indifference between these figures and the employer of the teachers? And worse is the employer proceeds to say that, you know, if you're under this union, you are not going to get anything under the CBA agreement.
I think the collective bargaining agreement should definitely apply to all teachers, regardless of which union you are part of. So I think it is a great win for NAT, as it is rightly stated, and of course a great win for the leadership of NAT. So I think the TSC was kind of it was quite malicious in kind of trying to create such divisions, and of course its moves were, I think, focused on probably the fight was focused targeted at the union boss. So I think the union boss has really won, and of course, being part of parliament, I think he was quite also instrumental in kind of trying to, you know, get the parliament's blessings towards that kind of decision. So it was easier for him to lobby being part of parliament. So I think it is a great win for our teachers, and they are getting what they rightfully deserve. And I think it should, you know, it is a right for all teachers, provided that they are TSC members.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now coming to party funding, and we have about 800 million up for grabs between ODM and Jubilee. This is between, of course, these key parties that is on the current financial year. And as it is said, these are the only qualified parties or qualifying parties since the law was amended to provide a computation of the votes garnered at the presidential, governor, parliamentary and ward levels. Of this allocation, ODM will be given about 3.9 million, with Jubilee getting the rest. And this also has raised, again, the conversation between the NASA coalition leaders and the National Super Alliance, that is NASA affiliate parties, will be forced to renegotiate, the February 2017 coalition agreement to get a share of the Mr. Odinga Orange Democratic Movement funding. And the Office of the Auditor General has declared that this is because the audit report, based on the accounts of Mr. Musalia Mudavadi Amani Coalition Party, shows that NASA affiliate parties did not include the coalition agreement, a method of sharing funds. And I think this is not a new conversation, but has been there. Looks like the other parties within the NASA coalitions have decided that they're not going to pull out until they're able to get answers to this. What way forward? And what does it speak about, first of all, multipartyism and, you know, party funding in the country?
Well, first of all, it is necessary that we understand party funding is usually only for parties that attain a certain threshold in the general elections. Initially, it was only for the presidential election, but now it was amended to include a certain percentage of votes in other elective posts. But of course, only the main parties usually benefit from these funds. And I think in future we need to have a conversation where these funds, a certain percentage, about 20 or 30%, can be, you know, set aside for all parties so as to promote multipartyism. But now, going back to NASA, we understand that NASA is a legally existing body But other than it just being a legally existing body, it is not really existing in action in terms of NASA being compact and being together. We understand that the parties have now parted in terms of the political paths that they are currently following. But NASA is still a legal body, and I think based on the kind of MOU that they presented to 2017 and knowing very well that they went to the election together, I think one thing that they probably forgot was that the law will mostly look at the party that went to the general election, which attained, that kind of vote. And you know that it is only ODM which had a majority of the seats in parliament, in the county assemblies. So I think ODM was the biggest winner of it all. And ODM has probably been bullying the rest based on their lack of influence of members in the assembly. Yeah. So I think it is only fair that ODM really considers the other parties to probably involve them in the sharing of those funds. But of course, we have to be realistic. They must really beg ODM for kind of those funds, because they did not have proper structures for such funds. Because of course, when they created that kind of a coalition, they were creating the coalition to join government. So they were not expecting to be in opposition fighting for breadcrumbs, such as, political parties' funds. So that is why I think we were not prepared for such a situation. And I think it is compulsory that they probably speak well with ODM. And that is why you've seen Sifuna, the SG, the Secretary General for ODM, has been quite tough on those other parties, so that they don't come asking for the lion's share. They must understand that ODM must have the lion's share of the funds allocated to that kind of coalition.
Well, interesting times are ahead, as we would all assume that, yes, the other principals assumed that, things would fall to place almost, automatically, but such is not the case. Mungatana seized in corn game and corn gone bad, as former Garsen Member of Parliament Danson Mungatana was increased yesterday when he was arrested in Nairobi. That appeared to be a botched corn game. Director of Criminal Investigations officers trailed the former MP for the whole day and arrested him at a Sagri hotel. Sources linked the arrest to a fake deal linked to the military. Of course, it's a developing story. We'll be following up on the same later on the broadcast. But let's take a look at briefly what is captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And you can't stop me again. It is Ruto's our story that is on the front page. Raila purges top party organ in 2022 poll plan. So the prominent lawmakers Junet Mohammed and Juni Panenu are among big names replaced as ODM picks Catherine Muma to chair the National Elections Board in fresh bid to rejuvenate ahead of the next polls. The party also reconstituted the National Disciplinary Committee. Is it a polite way of saying that, yes, Baba has acknowledged or appreciated the endorsement by the likes of Murathe and Atoli and says yes to it?
Well, I think, first of all, it is one of the ways to say that, I can say, but looking at the appointments of Catherine Muma and, of course, Professor Ben Sihanya, who is a professor of law at the University of Nairobi, and who was also one of the lawyers of the NASA coalition during the 2017 presidential election petition. So I think, first of all, it was a way to award loyalists. I had seen a conversation by some, ODM officials, speaking and saying that they need to really reward, leaders or probably individuals like Ben Sihanya, who have been very, very, very vocal and very supportive of ODM and the party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. So I think it is a way of Raila preparing for 2022. Of course, we understand that Junet and Judy Pareno was the election board, one part of the election board of the party, and of course now that they now occupy such positions in Parliament and Senate, I think it was only fair to give individuals who are going to be very active. So what that tells you is that probably ODM is expecting an election soon, maybe it's going to be the BBI referendum and of course 2022. So it is time for them to now prepare. And I think that's to tell you Baba is ready. And putting a professor like Ben Sihanya there, who has been one of the leaders in the election petition, that tells you that he is prepared for a very strong battle in 2022, and he wants his party to go, having sorted its issues at the nomination level. You know very well that the party has always had issues with nomination, with the members crying foul that their nominations, the nominations of ODM are never free and fair.
Yeah.
So of course, that has always had an impact on apathy that we usually get at the end of the election period during the main election. So I think in order to eliminate that and have every of his supporter get fairness during the nomination, that means we are not going to have any apathy clouding us strongholds in 2022. So I think he's freshening up and preparing well for.
All right, well, okay, and on that note, in the best interest of time, we'll not expound some more on the papers because anyway, more or less the same stories that have been captured right here on the front page of Nairobi, and also the matters of the new vaccine that we get right here, and also on matters education and the fact that TSC has ordered return to 130,000 teachers to NATS register. So on that very note, Steve Kijana, thank you so much for your time, and this is now the time that we get to wind up on the newspaper review. We have so much coming up next as we discuss matters COVID-19 and what way forward for the global fraternity. And right here for the country later on, we'll be discussing issues to do with youth. Remember, it's International Youth Day. So today we celebrate this, we commemorate this day. But how much have we done towards ensuring that the youth are involved, engaged, and they're part and parcel of decision making? After this break. Welcome back to the broadcast, and it's now time that we expand some more on health issues right here in the country as we take a look at the situation on matters COVID-19, and we have a specialist who joins me this morning to expand some more on the same. Dr. Samuel Omolo, he's a disease diagnostic expert territory and a manager antibiotic for Africa. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for finding time for us this morning.
It's a great pleasure hosting me.
Good.
And, thank you.
All right. So Russia and the World Health Organization is currently having a conversation that revolves around, the process of pre-qualification for its newly approved COVID-19 vaccine. And according to World Health Organization, says yes, some good hope, but it is important that we do not rush into this. Sigh of hope, if you'd weigh in on the same.
Thank you very much, and that's a good question. For the vaccine and what we have currently in the world, first of all, I have to underscore the fact that this is an unprecedented global nightmare. It's been seen before. It's a combination of spectacular, highly transmitting virus within the community. I say it's truly historic, global nightmare, and also quite pervasive and transmitting virus at a high speed, dated back to the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. So a vaccine would be a timely intervention, but without a rush. We are not yet sure if Russia gets a good quality vaccine. That's bingo for the world. It's a good breakthrough. But there's so many that we've seen in the past. The Chinese also developed their own vaccine recently. But what I know scientifically from the Russian vaccine is just an attenuated vector. A vector is any medium that you can use to transport a vaccine into the human system. So they're using a viral vector to transport RNA into human system, so to provoke an immune reaction. But I would not say much. We are only 6 months into the pandemic, and we want to rush into conclusions about having true vaccine or not, because you look at the cohort and the number of people, they've just done like a few hundreds, but you'd want to have thousands within your cohort of study exposed to the virus, from Africans, Europeans, and to Asians, to get a clear picture of a true vaccine.
All right, we can only hope for the best as it stands at this point, when the world has more than 20 million cases or the death that have been caused by COVID-19, 700 worldwide. That's crippling the world's economy in a huge way. So we hope that this is going to be addressed, and if addressed and indeed brings hope, then it will be the right direction to take. But that aside, there have been reports of after effects, in as much as we celebrate the fact that there are people who have recovered from COVID-19. We've registered high numbers of recoveries, almost half of the numbers of the people that have been infected since the first time or the first case was recorded right here in the country. It looks like we're being told that after you have recovered from COVID-19, then the patients are likely to have, the after effects of the same, in the sense that they will have also difficulties. I mean, they will have their hearts and their kidneys damaged and all that. What do you say about this report? And moving forward, is there a way that we can avoid such scenarios from occurring?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. So as I've mentioned again and again, that we are only 6 months into the pandemic.
Yeah.
We are learning a lot. It's still a ponderous box. And I can only compare it to flying a plane and making it at the same time. So you are learning as you make your plane, and also you're flying it and repairing at the same time. So regarding recoveries, we've seen quite a number of recoveries this week, and that's good news to the country and the world. But before you go into that, there are scientific facts that never change. So have what we call scientific unknowns, which health experts have to really deal with, which the first one would be if we have recoveries, what's the full extent of the immune response? Yeah, the natural immune response that's not induced. Yeah, then the long-term chronic effects of this disease after recovery, no one knows because we're only 6 months into it. The third important question would be, what would be the full extent of clinical manifestation? Still not yet unknown. And then what are the therapies that we have in our pipeline to cover this? So for recoveries, we need our public health experts to come on board and do studies and follow-ups, because for now in Kenya, you just told you've recovered or go and do this therapy, and the story ends there. There's still no follow-up studies because we are the exponential phase of tackling this pandemic.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's still a gray.
It's still
a gray area.
Okay. Well, that aside, the handling and how we've treated our frontline workers has been a bone of contention for the longest of time as it stands right now. What more needs to be done to get from this point where, you know, there are complaints to that point where we ensure that our health workers or the frontline workers are well catered for? Because in a huge way that will come in handy towards also addressing the issue of COVID-19 and the discrepancies that come along with them right here in the country.
Yeah, we feel for healthcare workers who actually up to this point are like our soldiers. And first of all, we want to salute them for the tremendous job. They're doing a good job. They've been there for us. They're covering the whole country and also protecting the world. So straight on point for healthcare workers, they have to be protected and given the right equipment and PPEs to protect themselves. The other thing is to withdraw vulnerable groups. And like breastfeeding mothers, frontline workers who are sick and have some condition, underlying condition, get them to the back end. Yeah. Bring on board more healthy workers. Check on them. Have a complete system that protects them, even in terms of their career. Yeah. Get some motivation to the doctors so that they can work extra hours. So I think the underlying fact right now in the world is that we cannot cure the disease, but we can prevent it. So to protect the healthcare workers, we must give them the right PPEs, the protective equipment.
Okay. All right. Now let's delve a little bit deep and we take a look at the clear picture right now that we say it's a trial and error at that point where everyone is figuring out. Do you foresee a scenario where now there's going to be high advanced levels of health systems and, and equipments and facilities post COVID-19 in the country? Is this going to transform the health sector in a way?
That's a very good question. And have to say that when you're dealing with the virus, we first of all think of how to control it, because as of now, we cannot treat the virus.
Yeah.
So when I talk about infrastructure, I would not be really keen on infrastructure for now.
Yeah.
Because if we look back in history, we've been a victim of our own success. By that I mean, when we talk in the past, when we had some viruses and TB in the past, TB, polio, and the diseases that we eliminated in the past, we somehow attenuated our own infrastructure. By attenuation, I mean we forgot about our systems to improve them. and it's now catching up with us. We thought it was bingo. We've eliminated quite a number of diseases. And here we are now presented with another universal problem. So COVID is a blessing in disguise, in that it's given us an opportunity to fix our infrastructure. You can even now find good ICU beds and systems in remote parts of the world and of this country. So we're going to see quite significant growth in infrastructure, but we need to work more on infrastructure that brings good turnaround time, not just heavy equipment, because you may have a small equipment or a small facility, but efficient. So we need to emphasize more on infrastructural efficiency for the Republic and into years to come.
Okay, well, and that aside, there have been reports of doctors or hospitals, being on the spot over handling of COVID-19 patients, and according to what it said, actually we have the latest story that was captured yesterday somewhere in Kisii, where there's been complaints that the doctors do not handle the patients in the right way, and if they do, then in a way they get to expose the people around them. What would you say about this?
Thanks for that question. I understand the situation in the country. Some of it I don't want to dive into because the buck stops with the Ministry of Health that can talk about that comfortably. But doctors are also human beings. Mm-hmm. They've been beaten. They've lost their colleagues in this fight. And they also have their own fears. So, because there's not much information about the virus, I still emphasize again, we are flying a plane and making it at the same time. Yeah, you're learning on the job. So we don't want to blame doctors entirely. Mm-hmm. But if the allegations are true, doctors have their code of conduct, ethical code of conduct, and they have to adhere to it strictly. Mm-hmm. Guidelines with the national, following the national guidelines. And it's about serving our patient. They're our frontline heroes. They're our frontline soldiers. If they lower their guard, the whole republic is in trouble. So at this point, we can say it would be unfortunate if it's true. We know they are stretched. The country is stretched in terms of resources, facility, but there's also fear of the unknown. That's what we are dealing with currently.
All right, and speaking of which, again, on the very same tone, doctors being paid to give wrong reports on deaths of patients with COVID-19 to avoid unusual burials. Is that painting a picture of how much desperate doctors are and how much there's no money so that they can go to that levels of violating, some of the rules actually that, one gets to learn at the level when they're studying, in school so that they get to become doctors?
That's a ponderous box, I have to say. We can't treat it entirely as true, but if such things are happening in the background, then it's quite unfortunate. Uh-huh. So it also boils down to the kind of training we have currently. We need to have doctors who are also trained to go an extra mile to understand systems. Uh-huh. Not just trained from school and here you're working and handling patients. We need to have more institutions of learning, higher learning, and highly linked to the community to understand community, because you don't just want to go into community and start imposing your things or talking your things. And then also have doctors diving into research. We need to have research units within the Training Institute for Doctors. Mm-hmm. So for money exchanging hands and things to do with doctors, I may not really be the best person in the country to talk about that. It would be unfortunate if it's happening, giving fake information. But we know as of now, at least the country is trying its best to give information, and we have to give the Ministry of Health a salute on that, on bringing out information to the public. Mm-hmm. But for doctors, we have to over-emphasize that they need support. They're also learning. They have their own fears, and we have to give them the right equipment so that they can protect us. There's no way you can fight a virus. This is a submicroscopic particle. It's not something you're going to see with your own eyes. You need to give them the right equipment so that they can fight effectively without retreating. But if their guard is lowered and they're not protected, humanly speaking, they will behave or they will conform to the situation that protects themselves, not the patient.
All right, lots of issues to do with corruption, yet there's still much that needs to be done in ensuring that we're able to handle this. If you look at the system, you look at our facilities across the countries, indeed it is a wanting scenario, prompting the president to say that, all counties should actively be involved towards, first of all, ensuring that we're even able to get beds. 300 for every other county, that is the bed capacity for every other county. And when you look at this and you match up with the allegations of corruptions that are coming on board at this time when they have their donors who've come to, give us funds so we are able to deal with COVID-19, at this time when so much monies have been channeled towards dealing with COVID-19. I remember the other time the budget was read and almost all the monies were channeled towards dealing with COVID-19. Where does it place us, or what does it speak of this war and how successful we are likely to be?
Thank you very much. Corruption, I have to say, it's not only a Kenyan problem. It's a global disease, and my mom would always say we need to start teaching our kids from lower pre-primary about corruption as a unit to be taught. We've seen a number of allegations in the media, but that's the role of the government to swing into action and truly investigate the red flags that we are raising. If we get money from donors who are coming on board as health partners, we get donors in order to extend a subsidized price to the patient. Because if you look at the amount of money you require to do COVID tests, it's fairly expensive. Most people live below $1 a day, even in my home area in Muhoroni, where I come from, in the village. So you're not going to tell somebody to spend $150 to do a test.
Yeah.
They need $1 to survive in a day. So we shouldn't take or treat lightly any donor who comes on board to pump in their money, so that to reduce the cost of testing and treating the patient, it wavers a huge burden on the back of the government, and this is extended to the patient. So for counties and national government, if we're doing anything that's legal, I'm not saying they're doing it, then this is a virus, and it may truly catch up with you or your family member, and the ring is circular. No one is safe in this circle. That's what I can say. So we need people with integrity, a society with good accountability, and focus on the people and the people at heart. And also just running away from this current trend where every young person in the Republic wants to become a dollar millionaire overnight. We must, as the young people and the future of this Republic, move away from this capitalist nature and try to work with what we have as we grow gradually. So corruption is going to end now.
Yeah.
Or in the near future. It's an old trade, but we believe at least the government is doing something and should be doing something about for prosperity.
All right. Doesn't it get you worried as a doctor, looking at the reports of the test discrepancies that we get every other day? And also these, complaints and allegations by people that maybe there's just something that the government is not telling us right.
From what I've seen in terms of test discrepancies, this is a virus in its genetic material.
Yeah.
So for viruses, we have hotspots within their genome. Genome is that whole set of genes that a virus has, which are called, they are highly evolutionarily conserved. These are evolutionarily conserved genes over billions of years, because the coronaviruses did not just come today. So these conserved regions are called markers, the identifiers. A marker would be something like someone is brown, someone is black, someone is tall. So these markers scientifically differ. You find the difference in tests is that some companies use up to 3 markers, some use 2 markers,
right?
And you may find that for another company, at the 3rd marker that they're using, there could be a mutation, because viruses, their business is to change the genetic material all the time and every second. So we find that the company with 3 markers picked up the virus. The diagnostic test kit using 2 markers did not pick out the virus because it misses the 3rd mark as expressed. So these are some of, just one of the variations that we're seeing in tests. But others are also negligent and non-adherence to a protocol and national guidelines. For example, if you bring it into the country, the kit must be registered clearly, Pharmacy and Poisons Board, and taken through validation before it's tested. But we're in a rush. It's an opportunity to make money. Everyone is running around. Everyone wants to go into disease diagnostics and selling test kits. Even people who are in fashion industry, everyone has moved into disease diagnostics. So these are the gaps that we have, and that's why we are getting these varied results. Fast forward, the buck stops with the government. I saw it clearly on TV, a very big mistake. A private institution cannot lecture government institution on matter standards. So the government should take its position. I can say that was embarrassing, seeing institute lecturing government institution, big government institution like Cambridge on matters. That should not happen. The government should not allow private institute to quote unquote be the big person. They have to take charge and give us guidelines and say, we are working with this guideline, even if it's 80% efficient or we are getting it at 90%, but it's the government standards, not from private to government, advising government.
All right. Well, interesting view right there. So looking at what I'll call is Sputnik V, that is the Russian vaccine that has come on board. Let's go back there briefly and maybe paint a picture of what it would take for, or the stages that a vaccine will take for us to be released, to be considered, legit. As we have seen so far, the likes of Germany have raised, concern on saying that there is no data on the quality and efficacy and also the safety of this virus presented to us by Russia. So when they raise such doubts, I think it's important then we go through the processes. And also from what the World Health Organization has said, we should not celebrate just yet. It's important that it goes through the processes. Like I started by saying, they are on the lookout for that, or they are taking charge on the same. So what are some of these stages that are required for it to hit to that point where it can even be disseminated to different countries?
Thank you very much for that question. The only underlying fact that we have is that we need a vaccine currently, and not just a vaccine. We need what we call early intervention for this. So we have to salute Russia for what they've done, but we also have to be cautious, because any innovation that would help us control this virus is novel. I want you to underscore that fact. And in science, we say a new innovation is an accident that meets a prepared mind. But it must meet some standards. The first one, it must be verifiable.
Yeah.
and it must be, you have to be able to replicate it anywhere in the world and you still get the same result. Vaccine development follows different stages. We have phase 1 trial, second, third, until you get to a stage where you're getting it to a human being. You use small models in between, then you get it to a human being. It's not something you can do overnight and say, bingo, here we now have a vaccine. And it must have global application. Remember, the human body is unique. We are quite different as Africans from the Caucasian and Asians. So if we are to come up with a global vaccine, I really don't want to get into global politics because global business and politics, there's also something to do with global business behind a vaccine. And everyone is pulling towards their side and their technology and their patents and to big. Yeah, I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. But, well, getting back to basics, to have a good vaccine, we must think about what has happened over years. This is not the first pandemic that we've had. I want to tie it to the vaccine question that you just mentioned. It's not the first pandemic. If we look at the patterns in the last 18 years, in the year 2002, we had the SARS virus outbreak. It's within the coronavirus group.
Yeah.
In 2012, we had the MERS, the Middle East respiratory virus outbreak. And now in 2020, we have COVID-19. We have to think of early intervention of that unique cutting-edge technology that would help us bridge the gap of vaccine development, which normally takes a year or 2 years or even 10 years with or without success, because at times it may not elicit the right immune response that we need. So what we are talking about is that we have to learn that which kind of viruses have been giving us problems. The coronavirus, we've seen for 2012 and now 2018. We must think of a universal technology that can help us rapidly develop a vaccine without necessarily going through what we call attenuation of a virus, making it inactive, the live virus, and getting it into the human body. We are in an era of big data, artificial intelligence, and advances in disease diagnostics. So if we have a technology that can bridge that gap to bring us a vaccine, an accurate vaccine, that covers the whole coronavirus family, because it's big, yeah? And we've seen the patterns with the years I've mentioned, we are able to prevent or protect ourselves from future outbreaks. That should come out clearly.
Right.
The other thing we need to turn to early intervention is therapies. Yeah, what kind of therapies are we looking at? Are we talking about antiviral therapies like the ARVs, monoclonal antibodies? People are currently using them.
Yeah.
We have plasma from patients who have recovered, and other antiviral therapies. So if we synchronize all these together and bring it on board, we are able to fight the virus effectively. But I can for sure tell you, because of global commercial interests, everything will pull to their side. But we have to sober up and do it for the patient. That is what we really need to do right now. So a vaccine is a possibility to prevent. I want you to underline that word. To control and to prevent the spread of the virus. But I think we are able to treat this disease even in the next 2 years. Next year, not anywhere near next year or the years to come.
All right.
We are only able
to try. Okay, that's amazing. Dr. As we get to wind up, back to the scenario in the country. Extensively, the government is yet to hire more health workers, or to respond to COVID-19 after, since they advertised, that was about 4 months ago. And the other day we had a report of, medical students who had cleared yet, then struck COVID-19, so maybe they had not gone through the process of clearing 101%. They're calling upon the government to incorporate them at this time to deal with COVID-19. Do you foresee a situation where the doctors in the country will be overwhelmed in the event that the government does not come in to address this?
Thank you very much for that question. And it's very important as we look straight into the screens and talk to the country. Young people need to get involved. We need more boots on the ground. That's the message that we have to pass clearly to the government. It's no longer a story like the first day 6 months ago when we were talking about COVID. I had a patient in Nairobi, and securing a bed space in Nairobi is almost impossible right now. You have to part with big money for ambulances to move from one facility to the other. And looking at the geographical coverage from Kenyatta University Hospital to Kenyatta Hospital to Mbagathi and other private hospitals, we need the trained young doctors, even on internship basis, to bring them on board so that we can run a 24-hour economy. They're already trained, and some of them can train on the job. As I've said, we are learning about this virus, so it's a learning experience for everyone. And not only doctors. Doctors are as good as the results from the diagnostic world. If you don't pick out and know what you're dealing with, then a doctor would just be doing a sweeping generalization. So we need to use young students who are done with their graduate studies or undergraduate studies from molecular disease diagnostics, biotechnology, biochemistry, who understand and have been attached in core facilities like KEMRI and are well trained. We need to incorporate them into the system, even on a voluntary basis. So many of them are willing to volunteer. We push testing to a 24-hour system, have more manpower, and reduce turnaround time. So you would see a clear picture in the country about testing and what we are dealing with, the two pictures. This advises doctors.
Okay.
In short, diagnostics advises treatment. So I agree with you totally. We must involve the young doctors who maybe are just on the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samuel Omolu, for the great insights. This is a conversation that is ongoing based on the situation that the global fraternity is dealing with matters COVID-19. As we get to wind up, Dr. in 30 seconds, anything that you'd want to say, or we wind it up there? Dr.
Mine is to ask everyone, we have to protect ourselves at all times. Don't do it for the police, don't do it for the authorities, but this is personal responsibility. We are not going to control this virus, which is the right time, by just taking everything lightly. We need to engage the community more and understand them, and make the community understand much more about what the extent of what we are dealing with. We need to start talking about vaccination, possibility of vaccination, have community getting involved, so that by the time we get a vaccine like the Russian vaccine, we are not caught flat-footed. We need to involve the community more. We also need to invest much more on cutting-edge technology, like isothermal PCR, reducing turnaround time in testing. We also need to reduce taxes on diagnostic companies that bring kits into the country so that we have good turnaround time. We must finally call and rally all our research institutes to develop their own local assays. By assay, I mean local testing solutions to reduce the cost test extended to the patient. And with that together, we'll be able to fight off the virus comfortably. We also need to understand and map out communities that are hard affected, like the slums. Look at the prevalence, look at the incidences, and look at the comorbidities like diabetes, HIV, obesity, and what can really get people to an extent of chronic disease and to death. And personal responsibility, let's not use COVID as a capitalist creating behavior, but as a unit to serve the world and to give our story years to come on how we handle this current pandemic vis-a-vis what we saw and judge the community that handled the 1918 flu pandemic, Spanish flu pandemic.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Looking forward to have you some other time as we expound some more on matters of health. And on that note, we wind up this conversation as we cross over to a different one altogether after this short break.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. So the last 30 minutes we'll be discussing this beautiful day where the world or the global fraternity celebrates Youth International Day under the theme Youth Engagement for Global Action. And of course, it seeks to highlight ways on which we can have the youth engaged on decision-making processes, on political processes, on every other processes across the globe, and try to see to either we harness the energy that the youth have towards making the best of the world. So joining me this morning is Waithera Maru, and also we'll have Mr. Kevin Mukaya joining us to expound some more on what they feel about this particular day, what is the significance of it to them, and moving forward, how much they think the youths have been involved and engaged on decision-making issues that are of importance. And good morning, Waithera, can you hear me?
Yeah. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Yeah, it's fine, but it's really cold this morning here.
Yeah, I understand. But all the same, we have to do this. Now, my biggest question would be, what is the significance of this day to you as a youth?
One, as a young person, I'm very happy about this day. I'm very happy that at least we have set a day to celebrate the young people and to incorporate them into the governance and to conversations in this country and in the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I think youth is not a one-day thing. It's not a one-day star. Every day should be a youth day. Every day, because the youth culture, today's youth culture is a country's culture for the future. Every day, people are turning from 35 to 36 years. They leave the youth age bracket. Mm-hmm. And we need to make sure and to ensure that those young people living the age bracket of 18 to 35, the people we call youth, that they transit in a fine way, they transit well, and they become reliable and self-sustaining people and citizens of the world. Mm-hmm. So Youth Day, it's a good that we're celebrating today, mm-hmm. but every day should be Youth Day, not only on 12th of August.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and all the efforts that have been put towards getting the youth engaged and involved. For the longest of time, we've had complaints from the youths themselves that they feel like they've been left out on policy making, left out on decision making, left out on politics. Do you think the youths are also out here pushing themselves, to ensuring that they find space on the table?
Well, if I talk from a political perspective, we say that power is never given. So when we as young people keep on saying no one is giving us space, no one will ever give us space, because already there's someone in that space that we want to get in. Already the table is already full, On the table, people are still on that table. So if young people want to get on that table, they might put up a fight, and or make a bigger table. So, and on the same land, I think I should also congratulate the president. I mean, we have the ambassador for young people in the world is our president. So, congratulations to the president of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I think in Kenya, in as much as the young people keep complaining, in Kenya, young people have been given space and have been allowed on the table. You can look for the like of Senator Sakaja, the likes of Senator Mwaura, we can look at Gladys Wanga, these are people, Christian Yokabi, these are people who came into that space. Even our very own president was nominated into parliament when he was still a young person, I think fairly, Kenya has given young people space.
All right.
We are not yet there where we want to be, but we have had space.
Mm-hmm. It is for the people who've been given the chances to prove that indeed they deserve the chances and create more space for the others. Do you suppose then that the leaders that you've mentioned, those who got into power while they were still, young individuals, do you think they have done well towards advancing the agendas of the youth and also, maintaining the integrity of the youthful characters in the country?
I don't think so. Most of the times, and most of these people, when they get there, they become one of the people on the other side, They have gone past the other side.
Yeah.
We keep on seeing when they get there, youth policies. Like, for instance, in this country, there was something called NYC back in 2012, National Youth Council. What happened to NYC? You know, why aren't they pushing it? Why is there representative for young people in Bunge? Why are they not pushing for NYC? What happens? Who talks about when even the MCAs that are going to represent the youth, when they get there, do they really? How many? We have 2 people in every county assembly in this country. In 47 county assemblies, we have 2 people. Those are 94 people representing the young people. But up to now, I have not heard any motion about the young people, about the well-being of young people in any county. So I think most of them, when they get into those seats, wakivuka, wakiomoka, they forget the rest.
What should we do to change that? What should we do? I mean, because if you say that they can't beat them, they decide to join them. What do you suppose informs this? Is it that the old is right there, have tough structures that you really cannot root out? You look at the scenario right now, the youth enjoy the highest of numbers, even the numbers of, registered voters. So why is it that it becomes hard for them to tune these oldies to join their bandwagon? And, we see the opposite happening.
I think this is where we say you don't plant a banana tree and expect to harvest oranges. Like, before these people are given those seats or those positions, what were they fighting for? What was their passion, Do we give people these seats? Do we nominate people to represent the youth who are passionate already, who are already fighting for the youth cause? Or do you just get people because they are politically correct?
Do we still have Waithera? Well, as we try and fix that, and not to worry, we are on this crucial conversation of youths and how we get them engaged and involved, meaningful engagement for that matter, harnessing their energy towards making the best of the country, towards making the best of the global fraternity. We all acknowledge the importance of youth, the numbers that they carry and the energy that they carry, and also the wisdom that comes along with being a youth, and the fact that we have technology right here to enhance the skills that these youthful figures could be having. So as a country, as a global fraternity, as we mark this International Day of Youth, what are we doing to ensure that we tap into all this energy that the youth have? What do we do to ensure that we tap into all the wisdom that they bring on board? Of late, we've seen most of the youths are coming out to, just say that enough is enough with going out there and searching for jobs, waiting for the government to give us jobs. It's time now that we get creative. And indeed, we've witnessed lots of creativity coming from the youths. What are the respective governments doing towards ensuring that they tap into that, tap into this wisdom and make changes? Remember the other day, President Uhuru Kenyatta, first of all, addressing the global fraternity and also addressing the African continent leaders, saying that as a people, we need to look into ensuring that our youths are involved. They get the space on decision making. They get the space on transforming the world, especially at this time when the world is dealing with COVID-19. The importance of having youths incorporated in helping the fight is crucial and pretty much important. Lots of programs are presented for youth also to come and join in. Just how many of you understand some of these programs, are aware of these programs? So sensitization, is key towards ensuring that we are all involved as a young fraternity. So I think we have our guests back on board. We have Mr. Kevin Mukaya, right? And we also have Waithera Maru. Waithera, we cut you short. Or the internet cut you short rudely, but all the same, we're back. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Waithera. Let's wind up on your line of thought. The initial line of thought.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Come up again.
As we wait for you, maybe we can loop in Kevin Mukaya, who's just joined us. And Kevin, good morning. What is the significance of this day to you?
Good morning. I think today people have been left behind. When people were put at the center of the global agenda. But you see, we will see, like you see, we say that the government has involved the young people to some extent. We have representation in the government parastatal maybe, or even the government facility systems. But you see, these individuals who are representing us, do they have our agenda at heart? Are they implementing the youth agenda? Are they being selfish? Are they implementing the other people, you know? But that's how we should tackle these things that are coming up. Today being the International Youth Day, personally, I feel the government has done little. Even if we speak about the government involving young people, the implementation of projects, of its agenda, but at the end of the day, we have individuals who are not young sitting in seats that are supposed to be seated by young people. They're saying they're youth at heart.
Again, we're not able to clearly get Kevin. We ready with Waithera, or we can take a short break, try and fix that, then come back?
Okay.
All right, let's take that short break, fix it, and then come back. All right, and welcome back. I think we'll proceed with Maureen as we try and fix the other section, but all the same, Maureen, I'm coming back to you, and I think I had asked this question. I think it gets us to a point where we get a tongue twist. Anyway, all the same. So, how do we get to harness on the youth energy and the drive, of course, towards ensuring that we achieve the 2020 agenda in the country? And we also were expounding some more on whether we feel like, you know, the youthful leaders have done well towards addressing or advancing the issues of the youth in the country. Not so clear just yet. Maureen, can you hear? Oh, sorry, Waidera, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so this is my question. We were expounding more on whether you feel like the youthful leaders have done enough towards advancing the agenda of the youth. And the question then was, why is it that we've not been able to get to that point where we can switch the oldies to join us? And instead, we have the youthful leaders that go there with promises of advancing the youthful agendas. And then once they get there, they twist to this other side and they tend to forget what it is that took them there.
Okay, I think I'll start by quoting the French philosopher Frantz Fanon, who said that every generation have to choose its battles, either betray it or go through it, When we say that the old guys to come and join the youth cause, those people already had their wars, They already had their path and they have already chosen whatever they want. So I think it's more about we as young people, what exactly do we want to achieve? And having the knowledge and the realization of it's our time and time is limited by the way. You can only be a young person for 17 years, 18 to 35, realizing that whatever you do today, whatever you do in these age brackets, you gotta live with it. And the country or the home, the thing that you build today are the foundation to your future. So I think the reason we have not been able to harness the youth energy, whether be it in the corporate or politics or all the facets of life, it's because most of the times you want to box young people into some corners. We want to tell some young people that you should talk about this, you should talk about that, you should not touch this, you should not touch that. Most of the times, mostly in Kenya, in third world countries like ours, we don't really listen to what people want. We don't look at talents or interests. We just tell them the world is going this way, look that way, we are headed this way to foot it. That's what we have been doing for so long, and I think that's why we haven't been able to harness the youth power. For instance, you'll find people young guys who are doing very well in apps, building apps, and doing a lot of stuff, building. You see, like just for instance, those guys who a few weeks ago made the hospital beds, young people doing great stuff. But before COVID-19, we didn't know these people were there. No one ever. We were importing hospital beds. You will find the young people. You'll find the young people doing great in agriculture, but no one notices them. Just a few weeks ago, there was that list of the top 50 startups. None of those startups were from Kenya. They were all white guys, expatriates coming here. And young people have these ideas. Young people are doing brilliant stuff out here, but no one reaches out to them. We just want them to come out of the university, go get a job, start a family, like maisha iko set.
Right.
But I think that's where we lose it. Thank you.
All right. So how do we get to harness into this energy, into this, creativity that we have our youth having out there?
I think we need to start being more proactive towards people are different. We have to understand that. We have to start tapping into the talents. Like you just talked about how we get to Vision 2030. And you see, one of the strong pillars of Vision 2030 was building on the young people, building on the youth. That's why we even had stuff like Youth Fund ETC, and all the polytechnics being built in every constituency. Those were the strategies of Vision 2030. We need to be serious about it. We need to implement our intentions. You can't keep on saying every day until we have good thoughts for the young people. No, we need to start now implementing the good thoughts toward the young people. That's the only way to build this country and build our young people. You see, we keep on being told that we can't build a good country for our young people, but we can build our young people for our country. I think we need to start doing exactly that.
Okay, now There's been so much of affirmative action talks, first of all, towards pushing the youth into taking up the challenge, pushing the women into taking up the challenge. What more needs to be done towards ensuring that, you know, it's not just talk, but it is action?
I'm a beneficiary of youth.
I guess we lost Waithera again. Waithera, can you hear me? As I would say sometimes, yes, the network will not allow us to proceed with the conversation, but not to worry. It is today, and also there's tomorrow and more. Like Waithera had said earlier on, this is not just a one-day conversation, but a conversation that should be ongoing every other day. So at least we tap into this in totality. So I think it's only fair that we get to wind up this conversation from here, as we look forward to having another session where we expound some more on matters youth engagement, on decision making, on policy making, on politics, and we ensure that we all together make the global fraternity a safe space for the youthful figures. Thank you so much. My name is Linda Alela. That's where we get to wind up this morning edition of Morning Cafe, as we look forward to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.